Um, I'd like to call the EDC meeting for Wednesday, March 18th, 2026 to order. Can we take a roll call?
Dolphin AI.
Angela Ichu, present.
Wood present.
Nicole Ethier present.
And Will Blake from the town present.
And obviously Laura DiDio, EDC chairperson, present. Are we expecting anyone else? Oh, Elena is here. Hello, Elena.
Hello, sorry I'm late. I was in a rabbit hole watching the YouTube video of the of Kevin's talk, which was excellent. So I apologize.
Okay, so we just need you to say for the record that you're present, even though we can see you here virtually.
Yes, present.
Okay, so then we have a quorum. We'll get started. Hopefully Carl will join us. Elena, I don't think you have met Craig Dauphiné officially. Craig, I don't think you've met Elena officially, so say hi.
Yeah,
Hello, yes, just at the
Yes.
meeting where I was applying.
yes,
Yes,
yes.
so-
I met Alina the night that we appointed her. So it's good to see
Okay.
you. Good to see you again.
Likewise.
I wasn't there, so I'm being very existential. If it didn't happen in front of me, it didn't happen.
No, I appreciate it.
Anyway, so opening remarks. I think we want to continue the discussion on EDC 2026 meeting dates and also to bat around some ideas about potential 2026 EDC initiatives. So I guess we can start with the EDC meeting dates to see what works for folks. Again, there's nothing earth-shattering here. I think unless something to the contrary, there's something out of the ordinary, unless anybody has any objections, we would continue to stick with the third Wednesday of the month. I mean, so what does everybody think?
That works for me.
Okay,
Yep, that's good.
I have no current blockers, but I don't know after the next planning board election if it'll be a different representative on this committee besides me, but that's not till May.
understood. So then the next meeting would be April 15th, which is tax day. That would be a Wednesday. Does anybody have a preference to not having it on that date or perhaps moving it to the 22nd, just in case you feel, or what week is, I think do we have spring break with the schools?
Yes, it's that following week.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then I would imagine that April 15th would work for everyone.
Yes.
Good with
Okay.
me.
Okay, Nicole, how about you?
Yep, that works for me.
Okay, also, do you want to keep it all remote or do we want to do it hybrid? In person?
I
It's great to be in a room if we can. I always
Yeah.
feel like,
No. I was just thinking because it's income tax day, just in case anybody's last minute, but no, that's fine. Okay, so we will do it remote. well, hybrid. So if anybody can't join us or get stuck in traffic or a last minute thing, you can dial in, but otherwise we'll plan to meet in person. Okay, so then the following month is May, and that date would be May 20th. That's the third Wednesday of the month. That's kind of funny because actually April 29th is the first Wednesday. Well, it's April 29th, but it's the end. So then we have April 6th, April 13th, April 20th, and April 27th. So does May 20th work for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. Now, do we want to go out to June? Or do we want to wait on that? If
I'd
we
prefer
go,
to wait.
okay, that's fine, because the next, well, June would be June 17th. So, but we can wait if that's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah, the day before May 20th is the town election day, and we may not, just to say it, if the reason to wait has anything to do with just the election, we probably won't have the final count officially tallied, and even if we did, if there was a new member to come on, it wouldn't be appointed by either select board or planning board or anybody because of other schedules literally the day before. So I'm okay going out to June, but I don't have a strong need to do so.
Okay, so why don't we, it sounds like people would like to wait. It's not a huge deal.
No, we can just keep it the third Wednesday and then, we can always just put it on the agenda next meeting and we can move it then. That way we know it's going to be the third Wednesday, and if we have to change it at the prior meeting, we can have that discussion.
Okay, so right now we're looking at April 15th and May 20th for right now.
Okay.
Okay, terrific. So, do we need to formally get a quorum on this and take a vote?
No.
Meeting
Thank-
dates are up to the chair, so that doesn't need a vote.
Okay. Well, I don't want to throw my weight around here. Okay, if nobody has anything else to say on this, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item on further discussion of our 2026 potential EDC initiatives. And of course, as we know, this is going to be, we might be challenged by the fact that, budgets are tight. So, but we haven't spent a whole lot on the meet and greet. Last year, we just had really, I think the EDC cost the town, under 2,500. So, and that was just essentially for the meet and greets. I think going forward, what might be advisable, because we know we're in for tough sledding, like other towns and municipalities, throughout the state. If at all possible, we might want to keep any business meet and greets or workshops in the library, because that doesn't cost us anything. What does everybody think about that? I mean, we could do it. I mean, we could go to Evan and ask, for money to have it as we have in the past at one of the local restaurants, but I just thought the library might be advisable because they have the space, they have the AV equipment, we can tape it, and it's free to us.
Remind me, William, or Craig, really, was there, if the override that's on the table does not end up passing, is there any planned cuts to library staff or hours that we are aware of?
There are $75,000 in cuts to the library that are on the table. Last I spoke to the library director, those were all going to be program and expenses. I haven't heard about any personnel cuts.
Okay. Yeah, the other question on that for me was library hours of operation and like when it would be open, because that could limit not only us but other groups that may want to do stuff at the library. So that could impact our ability to hold something there if it's going to be closed.
Agreed. Hopefully it won't come to that, but that begs the question. Now, William, when would those $75,000 cuts to the library go into effect? Do we have any idea?
July 1.
Okay. So then it's possible then we could do the spring business meet and greet, and those cuts would not be in effect. So we might be okay.
Theoretically, but there's also no guarantee that the cuts would affect the EDC's ability to do the event there at all.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I guess I'll throw this on the floor. I like the event we did at the library. I thought the forum was fine. I do like where we're kind of an economic development committee and we're here to support local business. I think it would be great to do that at a local business like we did the first one, pick another just to support, our Grafton business economy. So, and I think we can get a room for short money and, food is food, whether we get it from a local place or we have the event at a business that can supply it. I just think it's nice to support them, especially for the spring, where we know, then as William said, the new budget hasn't gone in, will have not have gone into an effect, at that point. So I just like to, let one of the businesses host, let them, show off their place, let people come and see it that may not have been in, the establishment. And if they're willing to do it, I think that's, every town meeting is at a town facility,
Yeah.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I'm open to suggestions, so. Yes,
What
Justin.
one idea that I have, like I do agree with Craig. I think using businesses, if that's an option for us to do, and if the business is open to it, is probably a good idea. I do know the Uncommon Cow, which was at one Grafton Common, is moving just a few steps away to right next to the Grafton Inn now. They're doing renovations on that building, last I knew. And
Yes.
so I don't know if they're fully open at that new location yet or when their timeline is set to do that. But if that, given that's a new location for a fairly new business, that may be something that is a good venue for us to host an event. I don't think they have, I don't remember what their food options may be at this new location. They're the same owners of the Grafton Grill and Crust. So we have a few options on how to facilitate food if we wanted to with there. But that might be interesting to reach out to them and see as a different type of venue that we haven't done before.
Agreed. And what's interesting about that and makes it convenient is the fact that there's parking there. They've got the big, parking lot behind them, so that would make it easier.
Yeah, the Grafton Inn parking lot is different building ownership and different lot ownership.
No,
But
but
they do have their own
yes, part of that, yes.
part of that lot, yes.
Yes, and they're right, if necessary, overflow people could go over to, park around the common or go over to the library's parking lot. Does that get closed when the library closes?
No.
Okay, so it's parking is convenient there.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that idea. What does everybody else think?
I just have a question about with the again because I don't know. Do we have an idea of how many people let's say 2 meet and greets ago, how many of those businesses came back and attended the next meet and greet? I know you had mentioned that there were some issues with weather, so it might be hard to tell, but just in general, do we have an idea of like how many, essentially repeat customers we have of the meet and greets?
I think from the first one we did, we had a lot of people. That was at the post office pub. And of all things, it was a very cold night on January, and that was our biggest turnout. Then the second one that we did, that was at Reunion,
Oh, repeat.
okay? That was the night that we had the weather. So people had a hard time getting there, but we did have several people come back from that. But we had 25 businesses that came to that one. The last one at the library on November 5th, we had 37 businesses show up. And there were some new faces, there were some repeat folks. The issue that we have is that no matter what we do, and we put this out on the website, we go on to the Grafton Facebook pages, we put out mailers, etc. We don't get a lot of feedback or RSVP. So the short answer to the question is we don't know who's going to show up until they do. Okay.
Cool. That's encouraging. I think to me, the only things I can think of about, the event would be, how can we leverage it to collect more information about what is challenging those businesses, whether it's something like, they have each business gets like a sticker or a token and they put it in, a different jar, like for each, type of concern they have, hiring, tax and regulations, or, whatever it is, so we can get an idea of like what are they most interested in, instead of just relying on like, really like, I don't know, we're doing like a hand raising or like one person asks, and then that we can use that to sort of focus, some of the follow-up materials. Because I think it would be great if there were, instead of like just, if there's like a PowerPoint, but like you said, that presentation that Kevin gave was so informative, almost like too informative. It was like there was a lot to process and so many action items. I think like either creating like a very, TLDR sort of version, I assume these business owners, especially if they're sole proprietors, they don't have a lot of time, you know, or even creating like a Facebook campaign where each week we promote like one of the things that's mentioned in the talk if someone is talking, or even from the last one, whether it's, I don't know, one of the grants that he mentioned or one of the programs he mentioned, highlighting it, having a link to that. We could cross post on things like, all things Grafton or whatever. Um, Things like that. I don't know. Those are just some of the things that popped in my head when you were talking about this. But I think an event could be a great thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Now, one thing, and I don't know if this is feasible, William, is there any way, I mean, we can put together as a group prior to this, work on like, say, a 5-question survey that we would then ask them at the beginning of the meet and greet. Is there any way, William, to get those clickers where they could, as we do with the town meeting, or is that just not feasible?
No, that's very feasible.
Okay, so we could get the clickers and then the votes would show up. And it wouldn't take that long because let's just say we have anywhere between 25 and 50 or 60 folks.
Yeah, all the clickers are 10 feet to my left in my office. That's where they
Okay,
live.
so that's a way to do it and make it official without it looking like show of hands, please. That would make it official. What does everybody think of that?
Do the clicker types we have currently, William, do they really allow for more than just yes, no? Is yes, no just a feature of what we do at town meeting, or is it?
No,
I think
it
we
would be
decided.
only two options.
Okay.
It would be one for X and two for Y.
Okay.
There's there's also there's some like a free website. I forget the name of the tool, but like you can create a poll that people can just fill out on their phone. You know, you just create the URL and people would just go to that. And we could potentially use that. I can look up what it is. But there's probably some sort of zero cost solve for that. If we wanted to do multiple choice, like which of these is the most, you know, most difficult issue type of thing.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think if there's a way to do a write-in, for like an essay type of thing.
Yeah.
What would you like to see? Check all that apply. Again, we don't want to overwhelm people, but yet we want to get, good empirical as well as anecdotal data from
Yes.
writing. So,
If I remember correctly, you can actually free write the question in, and the way it works, it's almost like a real-time Reddit board. Like everyone else can upvote the question so that like the most popular questions get to the top and you sort of go down and answer them in order is essentially how that works. And that's just one particular tool. We could also find, I'm sure, 20 odd other ones that have possibly better options. This is from years ago, so.
yeah, okay. Um, so if you want to look into that, that would be
Absolutely.
great. See what happens when you suggest something, you get
Oh yeah,
assigned,
great. No problem. I'm happy. I'm happy to do that.
you get assigned the task.
Wonderful. Love
Um,
it.
Angela, what do you think? Nicole?
I'm in favor of it. I think it's a great way to get feedback immediately. And I think it also just incentivizes people to be able to attend in person and have their voices, opinions count, and get the data collected.
Okay, terrific. Now, the other thing I was thinking of for this meet and greet, and I'd love to hear your feedback, is Elena brings up a great point, which is Kevin Kouros's presentation was amazing. It was chock full of information, almost too much. So if we could revisit that and say, okay, what aspect of that might we like to highlight? My sense off the top of my head, and this is just my opinion, so I welcome everybody's feedback, is that in these tough economic times, people would like to know, well, gee, what existing businesses in town, what can we do to spike interest in our business? How can I, funds are tough. Maybe we could look at something and possibly see if Kevin is available to come back or to um, even dial in and highlight, okay, here's some resources that are available to you, grants, things like this, and we could do a sort of mini presentation and walk people through. Here are the resources, here are the links. Here's what what you can do. What does everybody think of that? I'm just talking off the top of my head now, but you know, we've had several businesses, go out of town, go out of business, specific businesses, and we have others that are going gangbusters. But for instance, I don't think Discerned is open anymore, the cannabis thing, but we do have other cannabis places in town.
Um, can I say something? I guess jump in here for a second.
Absolutely.
Okay. So to me, one of the things that drives business to our business owners is events. So if we had, we had talked about one time doing a taste of Grafton, on the Common, we could do it anywhere. But if we, support our local business, our restaurants through that, set up, kind of have them prepare food and have stations all over the Common, every restaurant can make their signature dish or whatever they want to do, have a fee to come in, and it's going to drive people there, and it's going to drive them to support other businesses in town. Like I said, we can do one in South Grafton, one in North Grafton, one in the center. Events bring people to town, and they're likely to go to the event and then support local businesses around there, right? So I think that's one thing that we should do is we should try and drive some events other than the meet and greets, which, I think we've done a good job planning them. I think the attendance has been disappointing. Um, and I have one idea around that. The Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce, they have a new executive director. Her name is Liz O'Neill. She's worked there for many years. So she took God, Jean's place. Is it Jean?
Jeannie,
What's that?
was it Jeannie? Jeannie's place?
Yes. So, and she's worked there for a long time. I know her. She's awesome. I think she could be a great resource for us. Maybe help us with this questionnaire. Maybe they've done that through the chamber. Um, and maybe she could help us promote the event with Grafton businesses that are members of the chamber to try and help get the word out. We haven't tapped into that resource yet, but that's what they do. They're there to help businesses network, to support them, to offer educational opportunities, to promote what they do, advertise what they do. And we wouldn't want them to take over the event, which can happen, but we can certainly tap into that resource. They have a full-time staff there that this is their wheelhouse. So we might want to, invite her to maybe, speak, introduce herself, at least maybe not be the main speaker, but have her give her an opportunity to address the Grafton business community, um, plug the event, plug the chamber, and maybe she could help us, with the planning of the event and maybe even some funding for it.
No, I think that's a great idea. Anything that, brings people in. Do you think, can you reach out to her and see if she might be willing to dial in or appear in person at
Oh,
our
now you're
April?
giving me work to do? What's
Yeah, well, you see, see what happens when you speak up. At our next, well, I mean, if she could
Yeah.
dial in remotely or appear in person at the April 15th meeting, that would be great. And then I think depending upon how long it takes them to put it together, then we would talk about, then we would move as this thing takes shape, pick a date. And
Yeah.
again, I think realistically, a date, we want to decide if we're going to do this, before July. June is always a busy month with graduations, but, I think in July things, shut down or, do we want to do it in early June? Or do we want to wait until August or September?
Yeah, I don't know. William, do you know Liz? Do you know anybody over at the chamber?
I don't, but I'm always happy to make new friends.
Yeah. Would you mind making the initial call to her to ask for Liz O'Neill?
Of course.
Um, and you know, talk to her about what we're discussing here. And that's if everybody obviously if everybody agrees that we want to engage the chamber. If we don't, if we want to continue to do our own thing, that's fine too. I just think it's been challenging to get businesses to show up.
Yes.
That's
And
true.
you know, as great as speakers we had at the library event, there was only a few people there to really benefit by that.
What's Liz's exact title?
I don't know if it's executive director. That's what most association management people are called. I don't know if it's that or if it's president or another title, but
And that's at Blackstone Valley.
it's the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce. And they're affiliated with the Worcester Chamber, um, which is run by Tim Murray. So, there's a resource there for us too. I mean, they're there to help people and they run a great organization, do a lot of great work, and you know, so I'm a
And
member of that. And when
what's
I'm
his name? Tim Murray?
Yeah, our former lieutenant governor. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. Um, I think also, is this something that we could charge admission for? Because I think it would be great if possible. It could almost be like, to give you an idea of what I'm thinking of, because Craig gave me the idea with saying like everyone makes like a signature dish or something, like each of the restaurants in either, in North Grafton or South Grafton or what have you. I went to this James Beard House dinner where they basically did that exact thing but with restaurants in Boston. And they had the chef there explaining the dish, and they had like a little thing on the table that explains what it is and what have you. But they charge a lot for that. And my thought would be if we pool that money together and just split it evenly amongst all of the businesses that showed up to help defray the costs of, the food that they are serving at this event, and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
Or
that's
so
actually a great idea. I mean, if we combine the two events, we could do a Taste of Grafton, do it at the high school in their cafeteria, that big, common area, and and do a business event and have it combined with a Taste of Grafton, and yeah, charge admission to it. I mean,
I think it'd be
it's
really
a
fun.
lot to plan, but might be great.
Yeah, I think that would be super fun. I would want to go to that.
Yeah.
Yes, but does everybody want to pay to get in? I know, but that said, this town loves to eat and drink. So if you got the right mix of people, and we have some, obviously great restaurants here, you know,
Yeah, and if there was a restaurant that was willing you know, to be the space for it, maybe we could compensate them with you know, whatever the
I
cost,
like
whatever
I like
money we generate.
Craig's idea about doing it in the high school at the common space. That keeps things very, egalitarian,
True, true, true. Yeah, yeah.
and everybody can bring their own and gets a shot at it. So far, with the three events we've had, we did reunion, we did post office pub, and then the last one was at the library, but we did have Bushel and Peck and Pepperoni Express,
Hmm.
cater it.
Also,
So
just off the top of my head, last thing, and sorry, Justin, I know you've had your hand up forever, so I definitely will get you, but just before I forget, um, with the businesses that show up, might be interesting to make like almost like a Grafton restaurant bingo card. And I don't know exactly how I'd promote it somehow on Facebook or at various meetings or what have you. But basically, and maybe at this event even as like a follow-up, where it's like if you get a stamp at each one of these restaurants, like within a certain time frame, you know, you can go to the town hall and turn it in. And then, there's like a raffle, with a couple of different prizes. Like one's a gift card to one of the restaurants, like maybe it's like a Grafton Town t-shirt or sweatshirt or something like that, for some other of the prize winners or something like that, just as a way to sort of continue on that thing afterwards and say like, also would be easy to track the success of it because we could see how many cards get turned in and whatever.
do you want to take point on that? I'm all,
Sure.
I'm all for it. I'm
Sure.
all for that.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
So a few things to say. My initial thought is that the Taste of Grafton, all that, possible things we could do around that. Those are, to me, a very different target audience, so to speak, than the business meet and greets, where the meet and greet type events are to bring the business owners or business managers, whatever, to meet each other, meet us, get advice and get help as far as running their business. The Taste of Grafton type event would be primarily, at least in my mind, getting residents of Grafton and surrounding towns to come visit an event, see these businesses that they may not have typically tried or even know about, and get that exposure and an insight into it. I think the taste type event would be wider visited as far as by people and in general would be my guess as well. and I think there's a lot of potential value there. I just hesitate to try to conflate the two and to do the same, to have the same target. Like the business owners are not going to want to go to a talk or have much of a back and forth if they're basically serving customers or talking about their business to actual customers. That's, my take on it.
That's true, and we would probably, we've got limited time. Usually
Yep.
these events, you're looking at 2.5 hours max.
Yes.
So we
Yeah.
don't, I like the creativity, but we don't want to bite off more than we can chew either.
Yep. The other thing is that I like about the like Taste of Grafton-ish idea is I know of at least one business that was told they are not eligible for this, at least this year, for the farmers market. Now, at least from my perception, the farmers market is primarily intended for actual farmers, but Grafton has typically had general businesses, attend it and have a booth there, which is good, but it does mean that you can't always have everyone there, and it's not run by the town of Grafton directly. It's a different group that runs the farmers market. But so like having something that gives that that venue for people to go in and try. The other thing in my mind is I'm not sure, and I'm sure William can find this out or may know offhand, if we can, as the EDC, set up an event where we collect like an entrance fee. I don't know that we can unless like town meeting gives us that ability to collect in, even if it's only for giving it back out to the businesses in some way. I don't know. I don't need the answer right now. I'm just saying that's a
That's
thought.
good because
And
I don't have it, but I'm
and
happy
then
to run that down and get it back to you.
yep. And then like one thing we could do if we can't collect like that is how the businesses come do a taste thing where we suggest they bring a dish or two of type of thing as like a sample size offerings, and they can charge a couple bucks for a sample of whatever, and so people can still go see the featured dish or featured dishes and buy something. Yeah, but there's probably other laws and stuff around how that can actually work in the first place that I don't know, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah, I just want to say, love the farmers market sort of aspect angle because I completely agree. If in my mind, I'm also kind of picturing something that's kind of like that, except just for restaurants.
Yeah.
Exactly. Second, in my mind, I was conceiving of these as like two totally separate events. I don't know if it's feasible to pull off both of them, and maybe they are mutually exclusive, and we would have to decide, which of them is a priority and which do we think would be more helpful or something like that. I don't know what the process would be, but I agree. I think they're two very different things, and they would have to be separate in my
I
mind.
would agree, just because of the time constraint. We don't want it. What you do is if we try and do too much in a 2.5 hour period, people, might say, oh, I spent a lot of time on this, but I would have liked to have seen that, and they could go away disappointed. So we should probably stay focused. That's my thought, but I'm willing to go along, go along with the majority.
We used to do, the Congregational Church used to do, the apple pie social every year, and they still do it, but it's a very, it's a much, much smaller version of the original that was the common would be packed with people, and I just think about if we could pull off like, we could do two events a year to kind of follow up on Alina's question. I mean, we usually do a spring and a fall. I mean, we could do a fall Oktoberfest food tasting, do something like that, do an Oktoberfest theme. It's a beautiful time of year in the common, do it in, either late September or early October and try and, pair it with that and, have it a
That's
paid
cool.
event and share the proceeds with the businesses that contribute and there's a lot of ideas. We just
Yeah,
got.
I like that idea in the early fall. And by the way, Craig, that would dovetail nicely with the end of the farmer's market.
Yeah,
Farmer's market ends usually like around October 23rd, and you could do it just before Halloween, because everybody's gearing up on the common
yeah.
at that
And we got
point, you know, for
right.
for Halloween trick or treating on South Street.
And we got
Um,
the bandstand. We could have some music playing too for the event. It's always nice to have music on the common when there's something going on like that.
And aren't there's at least one brewery in Grafton, right?
I
Um,
go ahead, Craig. I think you might know better than I do.
no. Well, there is actually this, I don't know if they're physically brewing in Grafton. I know at least one of them is a Grafton guy because I've been speaking with him because they're going to be their plan is to go into the building Charlie Bolak's old plaza across from Noel's, Richie Linehan. So I know him. I know his family well. Um, so Fitzy, who built Fitzy's Car Wash, bought that property in there. So they're renovating it to make a space for this brewery.
Hmm.
They're actively brewing. It's just very, very small quantities, and his beer is actually at Reunion on
Yes, that's
tap.
where I saw it.
That's right, and it's also at Anzio's
Nice.
up at the Northborough Mall there. So we do have a brewer in town.
Yeah, because then, maybe that could be, we could help tie that into like the Oktoberfest angle. I do also think that that's a great time of year, especially because a lot of the restaurants in Grafton are more like American food based, and then I think that cuisine just sort of lends itself more to some of those like comfort foods and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think thematically makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and the weather is still nice too.
Yeah.
Fall foliage, which would have been probably a little bit past peak, but people want to come out. So if we do that, then what does everybody think about doing the business meet and greet in, say, the June timeframe?
If June isn't too late in terms of like, people are like going for the summer. I don't
Well,
know.
Yeah,
we could try and shoot for early June,
I think
late
that's a
May.
good time frame.
What does everybody think?
I think
I
that
think if you do
timeframe-
it-
yeah, go ahead, Nicole. Sorry.
I think if you do it before the kids get out of school, it would be fine.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
usually once the kids get out of school, then everyone starts, going on vacation and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and we want to avoid the graduation rush. When is the Grafton High School prom? That's usually a huge thing on the common, with parents as well as the kids, et cetera, et cetera.
According to the Grafton High School website, May 2nd, 2026.
Oh, okay, so then, yeah, so if we did it in early June for the, like a business meet and greet, we should be okay.
And that likely would align with what I'm imagining of past when Uncommon Cow finishes their renovations to be fully open. I could be wrong, and they may not even want to host it there, but that's just again my thought.
No, I mean, it sounds good. Nicole, Angela?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yep, I'm in agreement.
Okay, so then what we're looking at this point is to try and do a meet and greet either late May, early June, and then do a taste of Grafton type event or Oktoberfest, whatever we want to call it, in October.
Yeah, I would just stay away from the end of May for the Memorial Day holiday. It's the
Yeah, no,
unofficial
yeah. Mhm.
kickoff of summer. So
Yeah, so I mean, if we're looking at, early June, And we can firm up the dates, but that week of the 1st of June or June 8th, the week of June 8th, that ends on June 12th, that gives us a 2-week sweet spot for time from June 1st to June 12th. Because after June 15th, then we're looking at, more graduations. And as Nicole said, we could be running into people, getting away on vacation, etc.
And I think the last day of school right now is listed as June 18th, unless I'm wrong. But that's what my calendar says.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, yeah, so that we don't have to pick the exact date now, but if we're within that, 10-day time window from June 1st through June 12th. I think that works. And the nice thing about that is that's before the longest day of the year on the 21st. So it would be light out, for the meet and greet that, hopefully would encourage more people to show up. Just a thought. Okay, so if we do that, are we agreed on that in theory without locking down the date tonight to do a meet and greet in early June? Okay, then the elements that we would include, I like Elena's idea. We could do a survey. We can get the clicker going, and then we can put some meat around that. So Elena, if you can take point on looking at
Sure.
some of the multiple choice things, and we could present that at our next meeting and then firm that up.
For sure. And just to be clear, is this something that we would essentially want to survey people ahead of time and then get their answers and then have that inform the content of the meet and greet, like what kind of speakers or presentations we would want? Or is it something that we would sort of, let's say we have a designated agenda, it's going to be these topics, drilling down within that, like here are the questions that people might have within that subject, like, how do I get around this? Or, how do I apply for that? Then we could do that in the meeting so that the speaker knows what questions to answer during the talk at the end.
Okay, so
Or both.
here's my feedback. And again, this is just off the top of my head. I think if we put out some things on our webpage and on the various Grafton Facebook sites, saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. We'd like your feedback. And maybe we could put up a questionnaire for them to send back in. So we would at least get that would include the topics. Then that would hopefully, if we got some responses, some good responses. If we don't get any responses, then it's going to be on us. The onus will be on us to come up with something that we think that they'd like, which would probably might be along the lines of, how do I drive business? These are tough times. What could I do? Or what resources are available to me? Then on the actual night, we could use the clicker and have the yes and no answers. So I think it could be a 2-pronged approach. In other words, we try and solicit as much feedback as we can on what they'd like to hear so that we're speaking to that. But just in case we don't get much buy-in, if that's the case, then we fill in the blanks ourselves and then come up with another survey. And then at that meet and greet, we could perhaps have, Kevin Kouros or, honing in on certain things, whether it's, hey, here are the resources, or here's how to write a grant. et cetera. One resource that we have here in town, and I'd like to tap into this because it's been wildly successful and beneficial for Grafton. I'm also a member of the Grafton Emergency Management Commission, which has ties to MEMA, Massachusetts, and FEMA. I'd love to bring Kathy Cedarberg in to maybe talk to us. She is the chairperson, the point person on GEMA. She is worth her weight in gold 20 times over in terms of getting grants. So she knows how to write grants, things like this. She wouldn't, and I mean, if there's an emergency tomorrow, this town is ready in terms of all the supplies we have. Now, Kathy's expertise doesn't necessarily translate into what about businesses, but she would be very helpful in saying, okay, here's, what you need, and here's how, with some of the mechanics of how to do it. That would, I think, be beneficial to not only Grafton businesses, but also to us as a committee. They have been, and granted, the charter for Grafton Emergency Management is different from ours. I mean, it's structured, they have very, very defined goals, but it's been one of the most successful in very practical terms that I can witness just in, my little corner of the world. And I haven't honed in on every committee in town, but I just know from being a member of GEMA for the last 3 or 4 years that they've made great strides, very focused. And I think that there's a lot that we could learn. So if everybody is on board, I'd like to reach out and maybe have, Kathy speak to us at our, next meeting. What does everybody think of that? Yay, nay, not sure?
Well, I would say that we probably have a lot of planning to do with,
Yes.
if we're gonna do an event in early June, coming up with a kind of an agenda and a location and, everything that we've gone through before. I mean, I think you're right. She's an incredible resource. She comes into the select board and, um, when they update a plan or to explain things, I think it would be great to have a forum where business owners could come in and she could educate them. I don't necessarily think that it really benefits us. That's just my 2 cents.
Nicole, Angela, Justin?
I agree. I think we've discussed quite a bit. I think I have like 6 pages of notes already. So it would be very helpful if we could just stay focused on the meet and greet and look at this as an item when we're past the meet and greet.
Yep.
Okay, my only thought was, and I don't disagree with you, Angela, in throwing it out there, is that would be a valuable thing ahead, ahead of time. But, to your point, we need to stay focused.
I like the idea of it as a workshop to help keeping it focused for the businesses. As both you and Craig, I think you both are on a good point for that, making it more for the businesses who have an interest in it. It seems more of like a niche type of interest.
Yeah. And I think on the meet and greet side, forgive me if I didn't hear anyone say this or explicitly okay with the thought process, but we do need to find out what, if anything, Uncommon Cow would want to charge for us to use that space, and similarly, what our options are with regards to what Uncommon Cow's owner is comfortable with as far as food options to serve people who show up, whether that be buying from Uncommon Cow's partner businesses or whatever, or if it's bringing in pizza or something from another business entirely, because it's their space, they get to dictate what the rules are basically. But just to know what we're working with, and like if they're gonna charge us, $20,000, that's a no. I don't think it won't be that much, but I'm just saying as an example. But
Are we
to
not
just
doing,
get in there.
are we not doing it in the library?
For the meet and greet, we're talking. Well, my suggestion was using the Uncommon Cows new location, which is right next to the Grafton Inn. So
Gotcha. Just price dependent and
yeah,
I guess timing dependent.
I
Okay.
can reach out and see what the prices are and what would be the options and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay, that would be great, Nicole.
thank you.
Okay.
It's 8
Who
p.m.
runs the Uncommon Cow?
Steve
I forget
Del-
Steve,
Yep, thank you. Same owner as the Grafton Grill and Crust.
Mm-hmm.
And good point about the time. I just wanted to ask quickly, does the Grafton EDC have a Facebook account?
Yes, it is managed by TA's office, I believe. So William.
By
I
who? No.
don't believe that's an EDC specific account. When we've done things in the past, they've been put on the general town page.
I thought there was an EDC account.
We have an EDC site on the Town of Grafton webpage, but not a specific Facebook page. Do we?
Yeah, like basically we just wanted to post as the Grafton EDC on something.
no, we don't have a specific EDC Facebook or
Yeah.
Instagram account. We just use the town's account.
Got it. And is there
Yeah,
any
so we could certainly do that, and then also on our own, go in and post on the various
For sure.
Grafton Facebook pages. All things Grafton, Buy Nothing Grafton, Planet
Exactly.
Grafton, Grafton Informed, there's a ton of them.
Yeah. I just feel like, having an official one would make it easier than explaining like I'm a member of the like we can also
So,
do that too.
I
That's good.
Yeah.
We should definitely do that. All the cross promotion possible. Absolutely.
one point to that from me being in technical experience. Number one, I apologize about I misremembered that we do. It is correct. We do not have an EDC Facebook page. That said, if we did have one and we were posting on it just very rarely and periodically, we would get a lot less views and potential people to see it than if we did use the Grafton official one, because Facebook doesn't show things that are not commonly looked at, to people generally. So
For sure. I mean, I don't think the goal of it would to be to generate a lot of visits to the page itself. It would really just be a means of posting. Like I feel like we could also post from the town of Grafton, but it would just give us the more flexibility to post more frequently other things if we wanted to, as opposed I assume it's probably more difficult like to have to send it to someone else and then have them, post it or something. I think again, we should also do both. Because your point about the algorithm is well taken.
if we're posting frequently, then it might make sense. But I think given the times at least in my time on the EDC, we've used postings has been relatively infrequent, that I'm comfortable just keeping with the Grafton page for now, and then each of us could post to other groups to boost the signal on the things and stuff like that. So, but that's like my opinion.
Okay, so we're just past 8 o'clock. So we're agreed that Nicole will reach out to the Uncommon Cow. Elena will check and see what kind of survey tools, etc. And then at our next meeting on April 15th, we can firm up these plans for the business meet and greet.
For sure. I'm going to work on the poll website. And also, I would say for the real time one, but then for the one that we would do in advance, which I picture being sort of like it would be in Facebook, a Facebook poll, so they don't have to go to an external website because there'd be a lot of drop off. They have to click through a link. If I could get some help on like figuring out what the topics might be, and then we can always have like an other and then have people write something in.
Mhm.
If the Facebook poll isn't flexible enough for that, we can always make a free Google poll and have a link. But anyway, I'm not sure what the options should be. I assume we have some sort of record of like, the biggest problems facing business owners from the last thing that we've done or something. Although I wanted to ask where to find that information.
I can shoot you that. I'll send it to the whole,
That would be
I'll
great.
send it to everyone on EDC and William as well. So it's a refresher course because, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, terrific. So we can do that. Does anyone, okay, so do we want to move on to item 4, which is other EDC business if necessary?
I think we just need to know if someone would reach out to the library to see if there would be a date in early June that would be available in case the Uncommon Cow is not available.
All right, I will do that. I'll do that.
Thank you.
So I'll reach out to the library. Okay. Yeah, those dates fill up fast. There's a lot of demand and competition for the dates in the library.
We could always do it if it doesn't work out I think Justin's idea is great to do it at Belfiore's, the Belfiore's new restaurant, if he's willing to host. But there's other places in town too. I would still like another option for a business if we can. We can check with the library. I think that's a good idea to see if, we can always have a placeholder there.
Yep.
But, there are other we can go back to the pub. There's new owners there. We can go to the Townhouse Tavern and get food from Bushel, which is right next door. There's, I think, a lot of businesses that we want people, we want businesses to support the event. I think we need to support them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just one thing under other business while I'm thinking about it. So the old Burger King property, so there's, I know the owners of the property and they've reached out to me several times over the last year. So I'm, was helping them kind of in the preliminary stages. They're trying to redevelop that site. So it's, looks like they have, McDonald's that's looking at redeveloping that property, and they have counsel, and I know they've approached, I think, the planning office, and had discussions, and I know they were supposed to file some paperwork. They have to obviously go through conservation, but they're talking about tearing that whole, that existing building down, moving it out of the swamp, taking the
I was just
property
gonna say they need to build up a hill,
They,
put a
Yeah.
moat around it.
they'll
Yeah.
need ZBA, they'll need conservation, and they'll need planning for several pieces on
Yeah.
each. I was told it was meant to be, they didn't want to have it widely known. That's what I was told just recently.
Say
But
what?
I was told recently that the current people working on that didn't want it widely known that they were doing so
Oh.
until they filed. I could be wrong. I'm secondhand,
Yeah.
but
Well,
the-
it's certainly a huge eyesore, and to see something go there is gonna be fantastic because
absolutely.
the property's a mess. So I hope the EDC would, I don't know if we have to make an official vote or send a letter to the boards and committees that Justin just mentioned, but I think we have to bend over backwards to get something there, and really work with these people to make that happen.
Have Craig, since you seem to be very plugged in, any movement at all on the gas station next door, the old,
No,
that's
unfortunately.
because
no.
that's, those two properties are,
Yeah, that's
like-
different property owners. The property
no,
where
I know,
Burger
but
King
it's just,
is,
they're
yeah.
just adjacent to one another in terms
Right.
of being
No, unfortunately, no.
unused.
Yeah.
I think from my seat, to your point, Craig, on having like a letter of support and
Mhm.
urging, I think once there is enough meat in those in the project to have these letters. I think
An
we should have it
agenda.
on on our agenda. Yes, we should have it on our agenda to take a vote and have a draft letter by somebody
Yeah.
that we can vote on and just send to the various committees, planning,
Yeah.
ZPA, that the EDC supports the project, etc.
Yeah,
Mhm.
William, is that something you could draft up? Just a simple letter of support from this committee that we could vote on?
Yep. Yep, I can add that to the list.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, then I will, anything else? Does anybody have anything else?
I'm sorry, Justin. It was Concom, ZBA, and planning, you said, correct?
Those are the three I know of.
Okay.
Depending on what the actual plan that comes out, it may need to be Board of Health and other types of things that could come into play.
Well, we'll start
I
with those three and go from there.
Yeah, that would be down the road, Board of Health, but certainly the land planning
Yep.
piece of it.
Okay. The only other thing is, Angela, how are we doing? I need to send you a couple of items from our past meeting, the minutes of the meetings from past meetings so that we can get those posted. How are you doing on pulling together meeting minutes from the ones that you were involved with?
So those I have almost completed, and so I expect to bring those to our group. We're just going to need some time for people to be able to review. I mean, like tonight, unfortunately, with our agendas and what we discuss, we don't have
Yeah,
a lot of
no.
motions, but we have a lot of verbal discussion. So
Yep.
I'm planning on that. We just had a short transition time from our last meeting to this one, and so I'll be able to cover the period that I've been involved in, from the end of 24 to the present, and then I'm going to be turning the position over. I think that it's time for a change and for someone else to be able to take the notes. And for the period of time before that, I don't know who was responsible for note taking.
Well, Sean was for a while, and I did it a couple of times. So I'll be sending you some of the things that I had. But as I said, it was pretty sparse in 2024 when there was that changeover. Well, and even before then, during, COVID and post-COVID. So we'll fill in as many of the gaps as we can. But we did not have, in some of those years, we didn't have very many meetings. So, for next month, do we want to have a formal discussion since you bring it up, Angela, changing roles?
I definitely think for the role that I've been in, yes, and maybe just take a look. It would be a good idea to take a look at it for the board as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's been pretty open-ended. So if somebody else wanted to be chairperson, vice chair, whatever, secretary, do we want to put that up for discussion, changing all of the roles, or?
It's probably best to do that for all the roles. I know at least the practice that I've done for the non-EDC committees is planning board, because that changes with the town election. We typically will redo the chair, vice chair, etc. at the meeting the next the second meeting after the town election. Regarding the community preservation committee, we've typically done that after the select board makes their their appointments at the end of the June, roughly. So that the next meeting that we have, the new formation, is when we typically have done the vote on who gets, what position. But there's no rule or anything that says you can't do it whenever. So if we just have it on the agenda to do appointments for this committee, we can get that handled, and it could be the exact same people if they
Yeah,
accept
no,
the
my
roles,
only,
etc. But
my only frame of reference on that, Justin, was when Carl Moisen was originally the chairperson. And he elected to to pull back from that because he had too many other commitments. And at that point, he nominated Ray Mead to be the next chairperson. So, and then there was a lot of turnover and et cetera. So that's how I got to be chairperson. But, I'm democratic about all of this, so we can put that on the, next month's agenda to discuss it and see who wants to do what.
Sounds good.
Okay, so if that's all, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
Okay, great, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate everybody showing up. I think we've gotten a lot accomplished in terms of where we want to go. So we'll see you on April 15th.